Hey guys, today I'm going to do my top 10 favorite medieval movies. I love the Middle Ages. It's one of my favorite periods of history. I love knights in armor, priests, the power of the church. Yeah, I love medieval times. It's one of my favorite periods of history to learn and read about. I'm in general history buff, and medieval times is literally one of my favorite periods of history. So I decided I will prepare a list of top 10 best movies set in the Middle Ages. And I created the rule. This list does not include any fantasy movies or anything like that. This is strictly historical movies that take place in the medieval times. So yeah, anything that's has dragons or anything fantasy in it, it's out. It does not belong on the list. This is very strictly historical medieval movies. So, let's get to it. Oh, but before we get to it, I will also show you my Knight Templar figures. Because I love Knight Templars as well. So yeah. But now, let's get on with the list. Number 10. That's a movie from Poland, like from the 70s, and that's Kingboleslaws The Bold. Like, that's a hidden gem. Not many people have seen it. Not even many people in Poland have seen it. And this movie is almost missing. Like, you can't find anywhere on DVD or on the streaming services. But if you're Polish, then maybe you can watch it on YouTube, because there is somewhere on YouTube actually, but unfortunately it's in Polish, so most of you likely won't understand it. But it's about the Polish king and his conflict with the bishop. Like, it's one of my favorite things to learn about in Polish history, a conflict between that king and the bishop. It's really a mysterious conflict, and no one knows for sure who was right, because it's one of the biggest Polish historical mysteries. And that movie presented its own interpretation on the conflict between King Boleslaus and the Bishop Stanislaus of Szczepanów. Yeah. It's a hidden gem, and most of you won't find this movie, but if you do, please give it a watch. It's really worth it. Number 9. The Adventures of Robin Hood. Like, this movie is a definite take on the Robin Hood legend. Robin Hood legend about the man robbing from the rich and giving to the poor. And yeah, this movie is so much fun. Like, there is another Robin Hood movie later on this list, but this is objectively the best Robin Hood movie ever made. Like, it's the most authentic one to the legend, and Errol Flynn is simply amazing in his role as Robin Hood. And all the other characters are great. And the colorful atmosphere really helps you immerse in the movie. So yeah, The Adventures of Robin Hood at number 9. And at number 8 is this other Robin Hood movie, and that's the Robin Hood from 2010. Like, this movie I find so very much underrated. Like, many people didn't like it, but I loved it. In fact, the very thing that most people didn't like about the movie is the very thing I loved about the movie. I like the gritty, dark, medieval take on Robin Hood. Like, the previous movie is definitely a better Robin Hood movie, but this, for me personally at least, is a much better medieval movie. And a much better movie in general. Like, I love Russell Crowe. I also like the gritty take on Robin Hood. And also it's far more historically accurate. And in general, this movie is a medieval epic and has everything I want in a medieval epic. So as I already said, Adventures of Robin Hood is a better Robin Hood movie, but this is a much better movie for me personally. Number 7, and that's a different movie from the previous three I talked about, and that's The Virgin Spring. Like, this is a Swedish movie, and it's much smaller scale movie than all the previous 3 movies. It's about this Swedish innocent Christian girl and how she goes to the woods and gets raped by 2 rapists and murdered. And later, her father exacts revenge upon those rapists. It's a very sad movie, actually. And it spawned a remake in the modern days, The Last House on the Left, which was a pretty trashy movie, by the way, and just pure exploitation, unlike this movie, which is very sad and is a revenge story, but this movie is an actual work of art. It's very sad, but it has an actual good story to it. And as I said, it's a very sad movie, but I like how it also explores the themes of faith, innocence, revenge, justice, yeah, all that. I love The Virgin Spring. Number 6, The Name of the Rose. Yeah, this movie is just fantastic. It's basically a murder mystery, and it takes place in an Italian monastery with monks, and I love how it explores the religious lore and all, especially that I'm actually Catholic myself. I don't discuss religion on this channel, but I do love how it discusses religious lore. I'm in general interested in stuff like that. I love the atmosphere of the movie, and I love how it's confined to a small monastery, and I love the mystery to it. And Sean Connery is great in the role of the elderly monk. So yeah, The Name of the Rose, great movie, and at number 6. Number 5, that's likely the oldest movie on this list, and fun fact, it's a Soviet movie, and that's Alexander Nevsky. Yeah, the movie is about Alexander Nevsky, a famous saint of the Eastern Orthodox Church, and how he defends Russia against the invasion of the Teutonic Knights, which are actually stand-ins for the Germans here, because the movie is very much a propaganda movie. But even though it's a communist propaganda, it doesn't change the fact that it's a true work of art. Like, the cinematography is amazing, the battle scene, at least for its time, is just amazing, and the story is pretty great too. So yeah, Alexander Nevsky, fantastic movie, one of my favorite medieval movies ever, and one of my favorite black and white movies. Number 4, and just like Alexander Nevsky is the oldest movie on this list, this movie is the most modern, and that's The Northman. Yeah, I reviewed The Northman twice on this channel, once with spoilers and once without spoilers, and I still stand by what I said back then. This movie is freaking amazing. It's the best Viking story ever told. Like, and everything in this movie is great. The actors are great, the cinematography is amazing, the battle scenes are great, and the visuals are freaking amazing. And I also love the historical accuracy in this movie. Still love The Northman, still my favorite movie of 2022. But I already said a lot about this movie in my review, so let's get to number 3. Number 3, Braveheart. Yeah, this movie isn't very historically accurate. In fact, it's actually pretty inaccurate in many parts, I say, but it just doesn't change the fact of how amazing it is. The battle scenes are excellent, it has an excellent story, the music is great, and you truly feel the medieval atmosphere. And also, you also truly feel the Scottish Highlands. Whenever I think of Scotland, I always think of Braveheart. And now we're coming to my top 2, which are almost tied up. My number 2 is another movie from Poland, and that's The Knights of the Teutonic Order, or as it's called in Polish, Krzyżacy. And it's a very old movie, and it's based on one of my favorite books and stories of all time, by Henryk Sienkiewicz, a famous Polish writer who wrote some of my favorite stories ever. He's literally one of my favorite storytellers. I'm a huge fan of his. And this movie truly does justice to the book. It has the amazing story of the book. The costumes are great, a bit dated but still great. The acting is also fantastic, and it also portrays one of my favorite historical medieval battles, the Battle of Grunwald. How Polish and Lithuanians defeated the Teutonic Knights. So yeah, this movie is just amazing. It might be dated, but it still doesn't take away from my absolute enjoyment of this masterpiece. It's also probably my top 5 favorite movies of all time. But my favorite medieval movie of all time is Kingdom of Heaven by Ridley Scott. Yeah, this is just a masterpiece, especially the director's cut. The theatrical version, I suppose, would be somewhere much lower on this list, but the director's cut is a pure cinematic masterpiece, and it's Ridley Scott's best movie, in my personal opinion. Everything in this movie is incredible. The cinematography, the story, the characters, and all the actors. Yeah, I also love how the movie takes place in the Crusades, but doesn't portray one side as bad and the other was good. In fact, it shows bad people on both sides, actually. It shows both fanatical Christians and Muslims, actually. And it also shows how people of different religions can live together in peace if they are just willing to accept differences. I also love how this movie actually has themes of faith, honor, chivalry, knighthood. Yeah, I love all the themes in this movie too. And also, in addition to having all of that, for the most part, it's pretty historically accurate. Other than slightly whitewashing Salah ad-Din and portraying Balian of Ibelin a little differently, everything in this movie is just pure perfection. And that's why Kingdom of Heaven is my favorite medieval movie ever, one of my favorite movies of all time. And spoiler alert, I'm going to give it a you should be watching treatment. So someday I'll make a full video of how incredible and fantastic this masterpiece is from my You Should Be Watching series. Okay guys, so those were my top 10 favorite medieval movies of all time. Please let me know in the comments what are your top 10 favorite medieval movies of all time. Please press the like button and I will talk to you soon in another video. Talk to you later, bye!